Both of the DLCs for Pokemon Sword and Shield introduced us to two former champions, but did you know that they also showed us someone that could be champion, but is just too busy? Meet Honey, Mustard's wife, and matron of the Master Dojo. She basically runs the whole place, except running the whole place is kind of expensive, so please donate some watts. Don't worry, you'll get nice things in exchange, like a vending machine with cheap drugs to power up your Pokemon. And if you donate 1 million watts, Honey will call up champions from other regions to come spar with you. The bad news is that champions are pretty busy these days, so instead of getting to battle Cynthia or Steven, you get to battle Honey. This woman thinks she's on the same level as Cynthia, and with a claim like that, you best bet I want to see if Honey could actually become champion. The only problem is that Honey has two slightly different teams. In game, you're given the option to choose between Squirtle and Bulbasaur, and the starter you don't take goes on Honey's team and functions as her ace. For this video, I decided to pick Bulbasaur for Honey's team since it is number 1, and also I was already a Bulbasaur in a different video, and I wanted to mix it up a little. So hi! Honey's only other early game Pokemon is Chansey. These things spawn all over the Isle of Armor's overworld 5% of the time, and in my many previous runs of these games, I'd often come hunt them down to quickly level up my team before fighting Leon, but this time things are a little different. Not only did I have to deal with Chansey's absolutely low catch rate, I also had to find one with the right ability. Every time I do a character run, I always make sure to have these same abilities and movesets as the video's character. Her Blissey is supposed to have the natural cure ability, which removes status effects when you switch out. The thing about the in-game characters like Honey is that they never switch out. This makes me think that the developers intentionally nerfed Honey and her team, especially since her Blissey runs moves like Blizzard, Fire Blast, and Thunder, moves that would benefit from its other abilities, Serene Grace. Anyways, now that we've captured the elusive Chansey, it was time to razor leaf our way through the Galar Mines and challenge the first gym. We could get through all of the gym trainers by spamming Echoed Voice and even evolved Bulbasaur along the way, but I was not prepared for the battle against Milo. Our Echoed Voice strategy worked fine and dandy Lion against his Gossifleur, but the Dynamaxed Eldegoss was a different story entirely. Its first attack barely did any damage, so I thought we were safe, but then its second one absolutely destroyed us, and that's when the real trouble started. Usually, having a Pokemon like Ivysaur would be a really good matchup against Eldegoss, since Ivysaur is part Poison type, and that would give us an advantage. The thing is, Ivysaur doesn't learn any Poison type moves from leveling up, so there was nothing it could do to turn the tides of battle, meaning we lost to Milo. However, considering how difficult these character runs are, I have a rule that allows me one retry per major battle before calling it a loss. That's because sometimes the natural progression in the game, like say level up moves, doesn't quite give me enough of an edge to win a battle that would have been winnable otherwise. In this case, Honey's Venusaur knows a Poison type move, and her Blissey knows Fire type moves, but their pre-evolved versions currently don't, so all I need to do is go find said moves in the wild area. Unlike Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, where the majority of powerful moves are locked behind progress through the Titans or Team Star storyline, the majority of good moves in Pokemon Sword and Shield are available for purchase as TRs throughout the wild area. All you need to do is have enough watts to buy them. So we went back to the Isle of Armor and hit up Honey's #1 watt supplier, the Diggin' Pot. Now on a typical dig, this guy will get you roughly 20,000 watts, but this time I got extremely lucky and he got not one, but 2 waves of energy, making him dig up a whopping 500,000 watts. Usually I'm lucky if I get like 50 watts. Anyways, I should be set on watts for the rest of the run, so now that Honey's earned her simp money, it's time to bike around the wild area and see if any of the merchants had the right TRs in stock. If they don't, I could simply reset the wild area by changing the date while waiting for people to join my raid then try again. It can get a bit tedious, but I'm glad I was streaming this so I could just kinda talk with chat for a bit. And we ended up finding some pretty useful TRs this way, like Earth Power, which is a move that Venusaur can learn, but Ivysaur cannot, so we're just gonna save that one for later. We also found the Thunder and Fire Blast for Chansey, as well as the TR for Sludge Bomb, so Ivysaur could finally have a Poison type move if we need it. Things went very different now that we have better moves. Chansey managed to live through the 3 turns of Dynamax and even got to burn the Eldegoss, although our super effective Fire Blasts were barely doing any damage. And since we ran out of PP, the rest of the battle was just Chansey and Eldegoss exchanging a series of weak attacks until until eventually the Eldegoss went down. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the difference a single move makes in these games. And to make Ivysaur even more unnecessary, we went out to catch ourselves a female Salandit from the Isle of Armor. We couldn't do this before because we didn't have its first gym badge, which would allow us to catch a Pokemon of that level. We also evolved Chansey into Blissey, who must have felt very liked after getting to sit in the front row of the party while we scoped out all the TR salesmen in the wild area earlier. So with our upgraded team in hand, we headed over to Hobury to challenge the bane of my existence, Nessa. Except for once in these runs, I have Pokemon with super effective moves, like Thunder, but in typical Nessa fashion, her Goldeen lives with just 1 HP. She then takes down Blissey with a Max Strike, and poor Salandit got flushed down the toilet with her Max Geyser move, leaving us with just Ivysaur. So we go big in Max Guard to start our last turn of Dynamax, then attack with a Max Overgrowth and one-shot her Dreadnought? Okay, maybe Honey really is as strong as Cynthia. Our next opponent would be Kabu, another major run-ender in Galar. Blissey was able to take down Ninetales and chip away through most of Arcanine's HP, but Salandit had to come in and poison stall the legendary Doggo in order to actually finish it off. That left him with just the Centiskorch, which we managed to poison before getting knocked out. The problem was that poor Ivysaur is at a huge disadvantage here. In fact, we lost our first attempt at the battle after getting one-shot by his Gigantamax Antiferno. So the second time we had to play it more defensive, using Max Guard to stall a turn of Dynamax, and then the only thing we could do is try to Max Guard a second turn. However, this is a risky move since trying to protect back-to-back will only work 33% of the time. Thankfully, RNGesus decided to give us his blessing, and the second Max Guard worked out just fine. But we weren't in the clear just yet, especially since our Max Ooze attack failed to one-shot. However, Kabu decided to set up with Coil instead of use a damaging move, giving us the opening to attack one more time and actually finish off his Centiskorch. Not only did we get extremely lucky here, the AI also kinda threw. Realistically, Bulbasaur Honey probably would lose to Kabu like half the time, but Squirtle Honey would be just fine. Either way, we won, so the journey continues. With 3 gym badges in hand, it was time to catch 2 more Pokemon for Honey's team. The first was Togepi, a Pokemon which spawns near the daycare in the wild area 2% of the time on a normal weather day. I expected the search for Togepi to be a long and grueling one, but I ended up running into one of my first random encounter, and of course, I hadn't hit record just yet. Now we are recording. Hi, look at this. It's a 2% spawn rate and we got it on the first try. I literally thought we were gonna spend like half an hour here. And yes, just like with the Chansey, it had the wrong ability. But instead of looking for another 2% spawn, I decided to use the Cramomatic to craft an ability capsule, which could change Togepi's ability over to the one we needed. To make an ability capsule, you need to use 3 rare candy and 1 random item. We already had 1 rare candy in the bag, so we picked up another from Route 4 and decided to craft the final one. To make a rare candy, you need a crafting value between 131 and 140. I hope you're ready for math. Thankfully, the comment shard is worth 34 points when crafting, and we would make one of those by using 3 star pieces and a rare bone. But to make a star piece, you need to fuse 3 stardust and a rare bone. And at some point, I just felt like I was playing Minecraft or Atelier Ryza, not Pokemon. But anyways, once we had our 3 comment shards, we needed a 4th item that had a crafting value of 29 or higher. Now, as you can see, most of the items in this game don't have a high enough crafting value unless they're late game items. There was, however, one set of items that fit the bill we needed. The sweets used to evolve Milcery into Alcremie are all worth 30 crafting points, and I could either try to craft them myself or try my luck with the cafe guy. I chose violence. And as luck would have it, he gave us the item we needed. Since we were already at the Isle of Armor, I decided to use this opportunity to look for Honey's other new Pokemon, Routes. Now, Routes are technically available in the regular wild area, but they are only 2% spawn just like Togepi. However, you can find them on the Isle of Armor, and they're much more common in its raid dens, so... Now that we've got both of our new Pokemon, it was time to make our way through Hammerlock and on to Route 6, where we took down some Team Yelgoons and evolved their Togepi. Once we got the Stow side, we went to challenge Gym Leader B. She easily knocked out Blissey, and we easily knocked out her Hitmontop, but then her Pangoro committed a stupid, using Circle Throw to force Togetic off the field and replaced it with Venusaur. Now, in case you've never seen the ace Pokemon get sent out earlier in these kinds of battles, the NPCs will always Dynamax them as soon as they're on the field, regardless of whether it's their last Pokemon or not. So the bad news for B was that we could now supersize her Venusaur and set up a Vine Lash for between turn damage and Max Ooze to boost their special attack attack. Then we used a second max ooze for even more of a boost, although her Surf Edge survived thanks to using Detect. Too bad it couldn't do much else. That just left B with her Machamp, who we took down with 2 energy balls, making this one of Honey's easiest wins yet. And since 1 win equals 1 evolution, we decided to let Togetic turn into its final form. Then we went to Ballonly and burned through most of Opal's team except for her Cake, which happened to be weak to poison. 1 win, 1 evolution. And oh boy, is this a good evolution. Usually the NPCs in these games don't have moves that make them ridiculously overpowered, but Honey's Gallade is once again an exception. This Pokemon canonically knows Swords Dance, which means I can set up while Gordy's Shuckle is trying to slow us down with Rock Tomb, and then I could just cut down through his team with Leaf Blade. But as it turns out, his Dynamax Colossal is a lot bulkier than I expected, although in the end we still ended up dunking on the Rock-type gym leader. And as if our team wasn't strong enough, we could now go catch the last Pokemon on Honey's team. Yeah, she has 6, Darumaka. Except I was a silly fool and went looking for it on the wrong route. It turns out that we could have had Darumaka for the Gordy fight, but let's be honest, we did not really need it. At this point, our team was so stacked that we could easily sweep through Piers and Raihan, although Raihan definitely gave me a bit of a scare there at the end. Not enough of a scare to win though. And just like that, we had ourselves all 8 gym badges. Now on to Winden, where we have to battle 8 more trainers before getting to Leon. To be fair, most of them weren't much of a challenge. Togekiss could easily sweep through Marnie's team, and our Manatan had to help out a little bit with Hop. Beat gave us the most trouble of the 3 rivals, however, even he went down with ease. The Nessa fight wasn't as difficult either, but it made me realize that they gave her the Gita treatment. Her Dreadnought no longer has the Swift Swim ability since its Gigantamax Water-type move sets up Stealth Rocks instead of Rain. Her final Pokemon sets up on Entry Hazard. Thankfully, the last 2 gym leaders were actually a bit stronger. For B, it was mainly thanks to her Hawlucha, who could easily sweep through Blissey, Gallade, and our Manatan, but I think those were just bad calls on my end, since Togekiss could bulk through its attacks and then pull a reverse sweep. I'm starting to think that Togekiss is just one of the best Pokemon to use in Pokemon Sword and Shield. If you want this game to feel like easy mode, use Togekiss. Unfortunately, it could not solo against Raihan's Duraludon, and even though he was the only trainer in Winden to get us to send out Venusaur, poor Raihan still stood no chance of actually winning. We also had to deal with Rose and his Eternatus schemes, both of which were foiled easily with Salazzle's Sizzling Flames. And with that, the only challenge left is Leon himself. But first, remember how I mentioned that I farmed Chansey to level up my team? Now then, Leon battle. His Aegislash shows no mercy and instantly goes for the one-shot on poor Blissey, but that leaves him in attack position, making it nowhere bulky enough to survive Salazzle's Flamethrower. We are fast enough to severely damage Haxorus using Dragon Breath, but sadly, Salazzle has a 4 times weakness to ground-type moves like Earthquake. And would you look at that, the NPCs do use healing items once per battle, which is also where I got my 1 heal per battle rule. The bad news for Leon is that he wasted another Pokemon that would get one shot at full health. The Togekiss sweeps continues, leaving Dragapult in the dust, although that clown is forever a pain in my plans. That's okay though, since Gallade can chop it down, and even slice through Inteleon's tearful looks. That just leaves Leon with his signature Charizard, which shows no mercy, blowing away Gallade with a max Airstream. He outspeeds their Manatan and melts their silly snowman, and even though we are left with just Venusaur, we can go big and stall Charizard's last turn of Dynamax with Max Guard. Unfortunately, even when small, Charizard can bulk through our only decently damaging move and shred through our health with its Fire Blast attacks, meaning that despite doing really well at the start of the battle, Honey would lose if she had a Venusaur on her team. But what if she had a Squirtle instead? I think the plan here is we max Rockfall, because he's gonna charge up a Solar Beam. Even if we don't knock out here, we win. I don't want to get hit with a Solar Beam, so I'm just gonna protect. He's not gonna hit me with a Solar Beam. We just need to live here. That's all. You could go for the guarantee hit. He's gonna Fire Blast me? Oh no! Leon, how could you? It has such low accuracy too, what the heck? You know, the amount of times he has hit me with Fire Blast is ridiculous. Okay, even though I couldn't beat Leon with a Squirtle, Honey could easily win if that Squirtle was a Blastoise. So whether or not she can become champion depends entirely on which starter you leave for her. Depends on which starter you choose.
Did you know that there was a third option?
Huh?
We had all 3 of the Kanto starters ready as rewards for outstanding students, and our dear champion here was the only one to receive such a reward.
Oh, so that's how he got his Charizard.
He could have also gotten the secret armor of the Master Dojo, but his sense of direction betrayed him. Instead of making his way to the training towers, he ended up swimming all the way to the mainland of Galar, and the rest is history.
How could someone be so pants at directions?
We all have our weaknesses. Lucky for him, that Charizard of his is an excellent guide.
Speaking of getting places, I guess it's almost time for me to leave.
I know it was short, but I hope that you got all the training you needed.
This training wasn't so much for me as it was for Tulip.
Fancy hearing that name. I love her makeup brand.
Seems like all the big business people in Galar know who she is.
Well, she is quite famous. Just try not to get on her bad side.
Oh, I'm very much aware. She can get a bit scary, like a Sharpedo chasing you in the water.
We do have a lot of those around the Isle.
Why are there so many of them?
The waters around the Isle are their home after all, and if they see an intruder, it's only natural for them to try and scare them away.
A bit excessive to chase them relentlessly at full speed though, don't you think?
Excessive as it may seem, it's their only way of keeping their little Carvana safe.
Oh, it's for their kids?
Just their motherly instinct. It's not just Ursaring who gets overprotective of their young. Even I would do anything to keep Hyde out of harm's way. He is my greatest treasure after all.
Greatest treasure? Your kid? I wonder how Abro's doing.
And he's gone. Well, I guess I can take this moment to enjoy some quiet time at the shore.
Heyo gamers, I am so close to having made a challenge run video on every major character in Pokemon Sword and Shield. If you're new to the channel, go check out the playlist with all the other ones. Only one more trainer remains, Oleana. I decided to save the best for last, and I'm also planning to record for a towns and trainers video for Sword and Shield along with that run, just to make it feel like my last grand tour of Galar. It is a bit bittersweet, but I am excited for it. If you are too, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it, or join the Discord server. I always post on there when a new video is up, and we have a special row if you do want to be pinged for that. Either way, thank you for watching, happy holidays, and I hope to see you in the next one.